So
Yeah.
talk about like your method in doing that and starting to build into that positive side and retrain your brain.
Well, I'll say thank you so much for queuing that up. I really appreciate the ability to share this because it genuinely changed my life. And I would say one of the biggest things when I was really losing my mind, like I'm telling you, I was not well. My mom took every story of a healing. She took things from the Bible. She took things from she found online. She took all of these miraculous stories and she wrote them all out and she hung them everywhere in our house. I couldn't see myself. All I could see was a possibility. Every mirror was covered. The refrigerator was covered. The picture frames were covered. Everywhere I looked, all I could see was somebody getting better, some miracle taking place, something changing. And so our home is like a 3D vision board. And you have to prime your mind. You have to prime your mind. The number one thing you could start doing is turning off anything negative, right?
Yep.
No news, nothing. You have to, okay, let's start with feeling, right? Feeling is the secret. You have got to be in the state of being whole, of healthy, of joy. You have to care so much about how you feel, not what the world looks like, not what your body's doing, how you feel. And you have to do everything to keep that feeling up, because when you keep that feeling up, just from a medical background, you're not in fight or flight, right? If you're in joy, you can't be in joy and fear at the same time. You can't be in survival and health at the same time. So if you can keep your energy up, you can keep your feeling up, right? Which is our thoughts. It's what we see. It's what we consume. That is a huge thing right off the bat you can do. If you're like, I'm choosing to change immediately. News is off, any social media, any podcast that is not conducive to miracles, that is not conducive to the life that you choose to live and that you are creating for you. I mean, even movies, like if it is an amazing love story and that's what you're looking for, watch it. If it's somebody cheating on his wife and you're going through a hard time, turn that shit off. Excuse my language, but like,
No.
no. And you have got to look at your brain is constantly taking in data, right? We take in what is it, 7 million, 11 million bits of information a second. And we can only comb through 40 of those. And what we comb through is our reticular activating system. It's what we're consciously choosing to say it's like raising your hand to the universe, to God, to source, and being like, this is what I want to experience. Okay. And so you've got to tell it, you've got to get clear. And so I would say, like, if you're going through a health journey, I would find every person that healed. I would go on a hunt of everyone that had your disease and healed, or a disease and healed, every miracle that exists. And I would put them everywhere. And I would wake up and I would read those. And I would say, this is what we're creating. This is me. I am that person. See yourself in the story. Become that person. Believe that's you. Because you know what's going to happen? Most people, they get a diagnosis. I've done it. Guilty. You go on the computer and you're like, oh my God, my life is over. Right? That's
Yep.
why actually something I'm creating right now is called the database of miracles, because my goal is for somebody to get something, right? Which happens. We live in a world where our thoughts can be toxic. Our food is definitely toxic. Our air is toxic. We're being poisoned and polluted all around us, right? That's why you got to at least do your best to keep your mind clear, because we're dealing with external forces here. So, but if you can go to a place and say, oh my God, like I'm going to type in my age and what I have, and you could find all of these people all over the world that were there, that healed, that have a story. Now you see a path. I believe that sometimes we're being called to be the path. Like it hasn't happened yet and we're being called to be that person. And sometimes the path is already there, but it takes you looking for that person and putting those everywhere. So I'm really driving that home because I really believe in what you're reading and what you're consuming and what you're prompting and priming your mind for. That's a type of a vision board. You could create these two for your life. I'm really getting big on this. I wasn't always like, I have a very good imagination. I would say strengthening your imagination is key, because your imagination, what you're seeing in that inner story is usually what happens. And speaking of stories, write down your story, right? Write down your story of who you are and then get rid of it. Because who would you be without that story? I was so attached to my story because people would say, what do you do? And I would have so many insecurities. What am I going to tell them? I'm not working. I'm not good at, because we as a society base so much value and worth on external things. What do you do? What do you drive? Where do you live? What do you have? That's not you. It's great. Like, I mean, I'm not saying don't enjoy it. I love the ability to be alive and have amazing experiences, but that's not who you are at your core and your essence. So you've got to disassociate with your story. Another thing I'm doing right now, just as far as affirmations, writing down everything you hate about your life. Like, really, just go for it. Be like, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. Flip it. That's your affirmation, because that's what your subconscious mind is thinking. So just go make a list. And when you think you're done, just keep going. You could even use ChatGPT for this. Like, that's an AI thing you could try, right? If you're like, well, I don't know how to think different, put it in ChatGPT and be like, flip this, make this a positive affirmation, and it'll give you the opposite. But ideally doing it yourself, because then now you're seeing yourself and creating it for yourself. But you want to create a new identity. You have to get clear on who you are in this moment so you can change. Most of us are like, we don't have enough clarity. Like, if you asked me at that time, I'd be like, well, I'm just, I have nothing and I'm sick. That was the affirmation, the I am that I'm speaking. Being super conscious of your thoughts and of your words, and really check in with yourself, like multiple times a day, setting alarm. Like, these are the affirmations I'm going to say. This is the person. Am I in alignment with that version of me? If the answer is no, then how quick can I get back to it? And then finding ways to have fun. Like, so many of us have these, like, if you asked me at the time, like, hey, what makes you happy? I didn't have an answer. I was so disconnected from myself. I was so also, I think a lot of times what can happen is we get consumed in relationships. And so it's like, yeah, I like this stuff. Well, do I like that stuff? I don't think I like that stuff. I think my boyfriend or my partner likes that stuff, and I want to spend time with him. So I just adopted that, but it doesn't actually fuel my heart. It doesn't actually bring me joy. So if you don't know where you are right now, and if you don't know what brings you joy, that's okay. That's amazing. You start looking, right? Like, for me, dance, move it. There's a new study. It says dance is the #1 way to beat depression, right? Over medications, the ability to move your body, to get into the present moment, to get out of your analytical mind, and just to fall in love with the moment, right? We're seeing like spikes in our chemicals in our body to create health, to create order, just through dance. So, or whatever that is for you. I mean, a lot of times it's like going back to a child and being like, who did you want to be before the world told you it wasn't possible? What were you thinking? What were you dreaming about? Like, going back to that you inside of you. And, like, whatever that is, maybe you were like, I want to be a fireman. I'm not saying you got to go do that, but like, exploring that child inside of you that is still alive, that still wants to come out, because you've got to be in that frequency to receive it. It's almost like, if you order a package online, if you order something on Amazon, you're going to order it one time and you're going to believe it's on its way to you. You don't go back and you don't keep pressing it. And I think we have to get it that strong with our own beliefs. Like, when you ask and you believe something, then it's done. But you've got to be home. If that package is expensive and it says, we need you to sign for it, then you got to be home to receive the package and sign for it. And that's your vibrational state that you're in. If you ask to be healthy and then you return back to negative thinking and the poor me and the victim mentality and nobody knows what I'm going through, I've been there. Like, I am not saying it doesn't suck. I have been there. I've lost all my friends, my job, my money, my career, my home more than once from being sick. I know how terrible it is to feel like you have nothing and alone and nobody gets it, especially if it's an invisible disease. And then people are like, oh, I think you're crazy. It's not real. And you're like, no, this is very real. But like, get over that, right? Just focusing on who you want to be and becoming that person right now and not wavering.
Yeah,
And
I remember.
those are meditation, visualization. I mean, there's so much,
Absolutely.
so many practices to do this, but those are just like immediate things you can do right now.
I always tell people that are having that challenge, and this is something I experienced myself, is like, have more conversations with yourself. Meaning,
Yes.
don't allow others to put those thoughts into your head. Go out. When I had a stressful day and I was living in the city and I would come back and it was just like, what's going on? Am I hustling so hard for what? Like, where am I going? Like, you start to get doubts and people are telling you, what are you doing? Like, do something else. And I would go for a walk on the Hudson River and I would just ask myself and have conversations. Like, what makes you happy, Casper? And like, Casper would answer in my head, right? And I'd literally go back and forth. And it's like, I wasn't talking out loud like a crazy person, but I was having full-on conversation.
Yes.
Right? And I do that in the mirror too. And people are like, that's nuts. I'm like, no, it's not. It's complete. Like,
You're
try it.
My life is going well. You should try it.
Right.